Good morning and afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Vaccinations for the Mind, Positive Puppy Socialization with Monique Fairchild, CVT, VTS Behavior. We at Fear Free would very much like to thank our friends at SIVA for sponsoring this presentation. And before we begin, we have a couple of housekeeping items for you. Monique is going to take questions at the end of her presentation, so please enter them in the chat window to be considered for answering. And just as one little favor, please don't hold them until the end because it's really hard for us to process them all at once. So when they enter your mind, just go ahead and type them in. I'll be monitoring it and keeping track of those so they won't get lost. And because we always get asked, yes, this presentation will be available in an archived version on the Fear Free website within a few days. You can find it at fearfreepets.com/webinars. And if you get our newsletter and you follow us on social media, you'll also see us promoting the archived version. You'll have plenty of opportunities to see that and share it with your friends and colleagues. So now I'd like to introduce our speaker. Monique Fairchild is a full-time veterinary technician in small animal private practice with over 20 years of experience. She is a veterinary technician specialist in behavior and a past president of the Academy of Veterinary Behavior Technicians, as well as the current chair of the examination committee. Monique was a content contributor for the Fear Free certification course and a module chair for 2 modules in the Level 2 certification course. Thank you so very much for being with us today, Monique. Please take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to do a webinar. It's uncharted territory for me, and it's terrific. I am really enjoying the process so far. As Christy was so nice to tell everybody, I want to take just a second and talk a little bit about what I do. So I work in small animal private practice full time. I have been at my practice for over 20 years, and I will say that we have amazing retention in our practice. I have my clinic, which is a really wonderful place to be, and I think that part of the reason that we have such happy staff and such good staff retention is because of Fear Free, and especially because of the fact that we now have some puppies and kittens that are growing up in our practice, and the way that we handle our puppies and kittens helps make them dogs and cats that love coming to see us, and it makes it so that we can love to see them as well. I think that one of the things that people believe working at the vet means is that we get to play with puppies and kittens all day. And I'm sure that we all wish that that was the case. Unfortunately, that's not all of our job, but I think we can make it an important part of our job if we pay attention and we have a good plan. So we're going to talk today about socializing for puppies. And there are some we want to make sure that we address sort of what the misconceptions are, as well as what socialization really is and what it really can do for us. So today we're going to talk about what socialization is and what it isn't. We're going to talk a little bit about normal versus abnormal puppy behavior. You're going to see these puppies in your practice, sometimes 6, 7, 8 weeks old. Sometimes you might not be seeing them until they're 12 or 13 or 16 weeks old. And it's important for you to be able to recognize as veterinary professionals what's normal and what's not normal when you meet these puppies for the first time. I think sometimes it's easy for us focus on the medical care that they need. For instance, you need to have your parvo vaccination, or you need your rabies vaccination, or you need your parasiticide. But it's also important for us to take a global view of these puppies when we have them in front of us and think about not just what they need, but how they need it and how they're responding to us and to the environment, so that we can coach clients on normal versus abnormal and what appropriate socialization is recommended for that particular puppy. We're also going to talk a little bit about client education for prevention and for intervention. In a 1-hour webinar, we are not going to have time to tell you everything you need to know about how to solve every single puppy problem, but we will talk about the importance of having a network for referral, for intervention, just in case you have every tool in your toolbox to solve every conceivable problem. So what is socialization? What does socialization mean? It's kind of a buzzword. We hear it all the time. It gained a lot of popularity in the 80s. I feel like people really started talking about socialization, and people can go on Facebook, or they can go on Google, or their breeder will send them home with a 10-page printed off packet and a little spiral bound notebook with pictures. You have to socialize your puppy. You have to socialize your puppy. Well, what does that really mean, and what is socialization? Does it have a purpose? What do we do about that? Socialization it's really adaptive. It's an important way that puppies can learn about life and learn about what is salient versus not salient information in the environment. Socialization has a limited timeline. Puppies, their socialization window opens around 3 weeks of age. After the eyes are open and when they're sort of getting to the walking potato stage of life, that's when we start to see socialization window be open. And it goes up to 12 weeks for sure. Some areas in the literature state even up to 16 or 20 weeks. It depends a little bit on which reference you are reading. But for sure, everybody agrees that at least from 3 to 12 weeks, that socialization window is open. When the socialization window is open, it means that puppies are more mentally elastic. That's a time where they can be introduced to things that are new or different, and it is relatively easier for them to interact with those things and to accept those new experiences. That's a time when the brain is ready and willing for new things, new information. Once the socialization window starts to close, they get less and less comfortable with things that are new. It is less easy for them to interact with things that are new and different. During that socialization period, impressions, and those impressions can last for a lifetime. That does not mean that you are stuck with what you get at that age. Of course, there are things that we can do to remediate if there are issues during the socialization period, but puppies develop lasting impressions about things that are pleasurable, things that they should fear, and things that should really take notice, things that are very important that they should really pay attention to their environment versus things that are neutral. So why is socialization important? Well, if you're a wolf or if you're a fox, if you're a wild canid of some kind, you need to be able to tell the difference between social partners and non-social partners. And this is a safety thing. Nobody wants to get eaten, all right? So they need to be able to identify who are their social partners. And then they have to be able to identify how should I interact with my social partners. And that beginning learning so that you have a really good family environment and a good social network and you understand who you're supposed to talk to and how, that happens during the socialization period, and it's an important part of development so that you can be a functional part of your society with the other members of your species. If you're living in the wild on your own, that becomes really important. When we are living in houses and we have people to take care of us, sometimes that picture looks different. I gave you a nice little picture of a wolf and some beautiful wolf cubs. Well, I think the bottom picture tells everybody what everyone thinks that you do when you work at the vet, which is you get to roll around on the floor with adorable golden retriever puppies all day. Unfortunately, that's not our job. But I think it speaks to the importance of domestic dogs learning that humans and other domestic dogs are important social partners for them during that socialization window. It's important that they learn to be socially flexible, but it's important that we protect puppies during the socialization period. If you remember, I was saying that puppies learn what's pleasurable and safe and fun, and they also learn what's unsafe and not pleasurable and potentially dangerous and can cause a fear response. There are a lot of misconceptions, especially among your clients. You've probably seen this about what socialization is. They say, oh, well, he has to meet 100 new people in a week, or he has to go to 50 new places before he's 16 weeks old. I see all of these recipes online about what socialization is supposed to be, and I think that that is not enough information for people to do a good job, because socialization just isn't about exposure. It's not about meeting as many people as you possibly can. It's not about going to as many new places as you possibly can. It's especially for me not about visits to the dog park. I really recommend against clients taking their baby puppies to the dog park. I don't think that that's a socially or physically or medically safe environment for them at that stage. What it is pleasurable experiences during those times. So you can see the image that I put here. I pulled this off of Facebook. It says, Stanley hates the dog park. He hid under the bench the whole time. Hiding under the bench the whole time you're at the dog park when you're in your critical period of socialization is a great way to leave a lasting impression that being fearful in new environments is important. And we really want to avoid over-facing puppies during socialization. Socialization isn't just lots and lots and lots. It's the right amount of the right kind of feedback. So why do we care about socialization? We work at the vet. Our job is to do medical tasks. Our job is to protect animals from disease. Our job is to protect animals from illness and injury. Why do we care about socialization? Well, unwanted behaviors are a life-threatening problem too. And it's not just about protecting you from getting parvo or protecting you from getting rabies or protecting you from when you're a puppy. It's about protecting you from having life experiences that could develop into fears, phobias, and other problems later on in life. It's preparing puppies to be successful family members in their lifestyle environment. And every lifestyle environment for puppies is different. It depends entirely on which family they've, who else might be in that family, human family members and animal family members. Where are they going to need to go? What are they going to need to do? Is this a dog that is going to be living in the city and it's going to have lots of different exposure all the time? Is this a dog that's going to be living out in a rural environment and they rarely see strangers or other people or rarely see new things? What's their lifestyle going to be, so that we can prepare them for success within their lifestyle? Not every dog needs to be a dog park dog, nor should they. It's important that we keep in mind, what is the specific lifestyle that this dog is going to be leading, and how can we prepare them for success within that lifestyle? With socialization, there are a couple of different categories or time periods that happen, and there's usually a big transition that happens in the middle of the socialization period. And with that, we have natal group experiences, so what they experience with their family of origin, what they experience with their mom and their litter mates, where they're born, and what happens after they go into their secondary family. Many people take puppies home between 7 and 10 weeks of age, depending upon the preference of the breeder and the preference of the family. And that transition period happens right in the middle of the socialization window for most dogs. So we need to take into consideration those natal family experiences as well as the post-acquisition experiences when we're thinking about and talking about socialization, because it's all going to add up in the end. And we want to make sure that puppy's perspective, the math is good. We want to make sure that they are having the right number of experiences and that those experiences are relevant to the life, they're relevant to the social development of the puppy, and they're pleasurable, so that that puppy learns to enjoy the experiences that are going to be part of its lifestyle, and that we protect them from having exaggerated fear responses during that time so that they don't learn to have unnecessary fears and phobias. That being said, I just went off about middle family experiences and permanent family experiences. That's not the only picture. We talk about nature versus nurture all the time in life, in behavior, for people, for other animals. It's a popular topic, and genetics matter. You can do all the socialization that you want, and it's going to necessarily change genetic makeup of a puppy. You guys are hearing bell in the background. That's my parrot, so I apologize for that, but he's helping present the webinar today. With respect to genetics, I like to think of the genetics of socialization as where puppies land on the sort of shy and bold spectrum. With respect to puppies, we have seen they have this tiny little puppy and it's in their hands, or it's in their jacket, or it's under their chair in the exam room, and you ask them to tell the story. Oh, how did you get the puppy? Well, he was the last one and he was hiding under the bench, or he was behind the dresser, or he was under the bed, and we felt so sorry for him, so we brought him home. Those are the puppies that are at the shy end of the spectrum. If you come into the exam room and you have a puppy and it runs over to you and grabs you by the shoelace or the pant leg and is trying to take you all over the room, and you ask that client to tell you the story, oh, how did you meet your puppy? Well, we went to the breeders and we sat down on the floor and all the puppies came running and it was the first puppy that knocked me over. That's going to be the puppy that's on the bold end of the spectrum. All of those things probably within the realm of normal, depending upon breed and depending upon, what their intention is. If I go and I look at a litter of livestock guardian dog puppies, for instance, it's not going to concern me terribly if those dogs are shy with people, because they're not intended to be social with people, and so genetic shyness towards people is not unusual in those breeds. If I go and see a litter of Labrador puppies and they are shy towards people, that I'm going to find that much more concerning at a young age, because I would expect Labradors to fall more on the bold end of the spectrum. And then every individual puppy is going to have a different place that they land on the shy versus bold spectrum as well. So it's not just breed differences, but individual differences. When I'm looking at puppies and I'm trying to determine, are they a little bit more shy or are they a little bit more bold, I'm looking at their exploratory behavior. How willing are they to interact with the environment? Is the environment overwhelming for them? Do they have normal exploratory behavior? Can they look around and feel comfortable doing things that are a little bit different? If something happens that is unexpected for them, like is there a noise, is there a new odor, is there a new surface, does another dog bark, something new gets introduced into the environment, what's their speed of resilience? How quickly can they bounce back from things that are unusual or unexpected? And when they do they recover back to baseline? Or do they recover to a more reserved place where they're a little bit concerned that that potential thing could happen again in the future and they're not sure how they feel about it? With respect to the implications of genetics and environment, what I generally tell my clients is my job is to help a puppy reach their best possible genetic potential. It's unlikely that I'm going to overcome genetics with socialization, but I can certainly make things worse if I am not careful with how I apply socialization and training during those young periods. So I'm probably not going to make anybody better than they are genetically, but my job is to make them the absolute best possible versions of themselves that I can. So this happens, so socialization window, we were saying it opens around 3 weeks of age. Most people at 3 weeks old, those puppies are in their natal group still. They haven't been brought home, and it happens before acquisition. Oftentimes we don't have control over what happens before we acquire a puppy. Clients don't necessarily have the insight or the availability to know what's happening at the breeder's house or what's happening, especially in the instance of rescue or shelter animals, where those animals may have been in a very potentially harmful or dangerous or negative or impoverished situation. The stuff that I'm going to tell you about doing for socialization before acquisition may not apply. However, I think it is helpful for veterinary professionals to understand about socialization before acquisition, that it starts happening before these puppies go home, and there are things that we can do to help promote positive socialization before acquisition. Some of us work with breeders, some of us work with rescue groups that are raising litters of puppies, and it's important for us to be able to give them valuable data about how to socialize those puppies starting around 3 weeks of age before they ever go into their new families. Rather than just talking about medical, we need to have behavior be on the table also. When we look at these puppies that are about 3 weeks of age and going up to about 8 weeks of age, they are usually with their family. They're with their mom, they're with their brothers and sisters, but in certain safe circumstances, it's helpful if they can get exposed to other species or other individuals safe for them to be exposed to. And I'm going to show you a little bit of video coming up here in a couple minutes that explains what I'm talking about. Socialization just isn't about your social partners, though. It's also about your environment. And so starting around 3 weeks of age, we would expect to see puppies wanting to interact with people, and we would like to provide a little bit of variety so that different people are able to interact with those puppies. We would like to see them, once they're able to walk and sort of totter and potato their way around, can they be exposed to different surfaces? Can they be on things that are slick or that are carpeted? Can they be exposed to different temperatures of surfaces? Can they get exposed to different locations? Like, are you in the kitchen, or are you in the living room, or are you on the steps? Where are you within your own environment? And then, of course, experiences, things like being picked up and put down, things like hearing different sounds, different things happening in the home environment. Those are all things that we can start around 3 weeks of age with not even that much effort being involved. But the key is that this should be safe and pleasurable exposure. Sometimes you will read in the literature, or you will see on the internet, or your clients are reading this in training books, that you should do a lot of testing or a lot of really assertive handling with young puppies. They'll say, oh, well, you need to flip the puppies on their back, and you need to pinch their toes, you need to put them on an ice pack, or there's any wide variety of different things that are suggested out there to do with baby bees. And my suggestion is always to remember that these should be safe and pleasurable experiences whenever possible for that puppy. So if I have a client tell me, well, I put all the puppies on their back every day, and this one screams and screams and screams for 2 minutes until he gets tired. For me, in my mind, I'm saying, oh man, this puppy's in a critical socialization period, and we're teaching him that handling is really scary. So it's important that we get in our heads that socialization variety is important, but it has to be within the comfort level of the puppy for them to be developing valuable new experiences instead of developing potentially harmful long-term opinions about what it means to have an interaction with a person or to be held in a certain way. So yes, do a lot of stuff. Breeders could and should be doing a lot of stuff with young puppies, but we really need to keep it within the comfort level of the puppy in order for it to be successful. Now, that doesn't mean it's all hearts and flowers. You remember that I was talking earlier about resiliency and recovery? It's important that they get exposed to new things, and there's no way for you to make every single new thing be a unicorn with a rainbow over it. Can't ever do that. But we want to make sure that we can, if possible, control those exposures so that they may prompt a response where the puppy goes, oh, wow, what was that? And they go, oh, it's fine. I'm safe. This is great. We want them to be able to tolerate a tiny amount of stress, but it needs to be tiny enough that they can recover and show good resilience and rapid recovery, all the way to baseline or even baseline or better. So let's look at a couple of videos. When we're looking at videos, we're going to show two videos here. The first one is going to be 3 weeks of age, and the second one is going to be 4 weeks of age. This is one of the litters of puppies that I have raised in my own home. I did rescue for many years. I worked with shelters for many years, and then subsequently I now have working border collies, and I've had a couple of working border collie litters come through my hands. The first video that I'm going to show you is a litter that was raised in my house, and this is a group of puppies that are 3 weeks of age. You'll notice that they are sort of, like I said, at the walking potato stage. They're not super coordinated, but they're willing to explore, and their mom is right there with them, so everything seems secure. But I just want to have you have a chance to see here these little puppies. Let me find the right video for you. Hang in there for just a second. Here we go. I'm going to turn the volume down just a little bit on this, but I left it up for a second so you guys can hear that I have the TV going in the background, and it is a talk show that has male voices on it because I have a predominantly female household, and I wanted to make sure that the puppies got to hear male voices and a variety of different voices. This is sort of like organic or passive socialization. A of all, those are extremely cute puppies. The puppy on the right now lives at my house. He was the keeper puppy from that litter. And you can see in the environment there's some slick surfaces on the ground, there's some carpet, there's some blankets, so it's irregular, there's some linoleum, there's a sofa in the background, mom's right there, and they're hearing different sounds and getting different surfaces, but it's all super safe. And you can see at the end they even went to go start nursing, which is a great way for puppies to feel happy and comfortable, plus also who doesn't love food. Now I'm going to show you a video of those same puppies just 1 week later, and part of the reason that I wanted to show you these guys 1 week apart is that they change so fast. It is amazing how quickly puppies develop, and it's a good reminder to us that that socialization period is compressed into such a small amount of time, and part of that is because how quickly these guys change and grow. So this is those same puppies at 4 weeks old. And you can see that the potatoes now know how to wag their tails, and they can walk around a lot better. The dog that this puppy is playing with is one of my other dogs. She's super puppy safe, and this is some of their first exposure to really having social experiences with an adult dog that is not their mom. When families have, especially when breeders have the ability to allow exposure with adult dogs that are totally safe for those puppies, but give different social signaling and a little bit of variety, I think it's awfully helpful for those puppies to have those social experiences. And you can see this puppy that's playing right now, when he backs up, that gray square is a wobble board. So that is a surface that's irregular and it moves. You can see they have a few different blankets. Some of them are wadded up, some of them are flat, so that they're going over different textures and different surfaces. They have carpet, they have linoleum. Mom is right there and she's supervising, so mom is still definitely part of the picture. And as we go on, it ends up that mom has 2 puppies and auntie has 2 puppies, and everybody's having a good time. In this particular situation, I don't know if you can see, I apologize for the state of my living room, but when you are raising puppies, this just happens. In the background, there are what look like some green cage legs. That is my parrot's cage, and so they got to hear him talk and whistle and see him and smell him from a young age. The TV is also on again, so they get to have a lot of different auditory input, and I try to play different programs for them so it's not just the same thing all the time. This is an example of social experiences for these puppies. It's super safe. They're in their home environment. I'm not worrying about disease or that kind of thing, but I'm actively trying to make sure that they get pleasurable variety. These puppies are getting variety while they are playing with other individuals, and I think that that's a great way to form some positive experiences. Plus, also, who doesn't like watching cute baby puppy videos on a Friday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are? So puppies develop really rapidly, and we have this compressed socialization period where we don't have a ton of time to address these things. So if we can start introducing them to different surfaces, different sounds, different social partners, your litter mates, your mom, but also if there's other helpful adults available, that's what happens with wild canids. It's not just all about mom when you're a baby wolf or a baby fox. It's also about your extended family. And in domesticated dogs, the extended family often includes adult dogs or cats or whoever the existing pets are when someone brings a new puppy home. So if those puppies have the opportunity for that interaction in their natal group, it can be helpful later on to make the transition into their permanent home a little bit less stressful. Not everyone has that opportunity, and it's very important that if individuals are going to do this type of early socialization with non-family member dogs, they need to understand that those dogs have to be puppy safe. Puppies are fragile, they are very delicate, and if something happens that's untoward, puppies can be injured really easily. So we really have to err on the side of caution and make sure if we are going to do exposure and experiences with other animals that are not mom, that we are giving them only safe partners. Oh, now my slide won't advance just a sec. Oh, there it goes. So that's before acquisition. What if we look at after acquisition? When we have puppies that go home, that is a stressful period in their lives, and any big transition like that can be scary or a little bit difficult for them. But if they have sufficient resilience and recovery, they should be able to thrive in their new environment as long as it's kept safe for them. When I see a puppy in a new environment, especially when they're after about 8 weeks old, we want to see them have exploration of their environment. We want to see them be able to interact with their familiar people. Can they accept some treats? Can they follow a toy? Can they do the things that they normally like in their home environment? Are they comfortable with social interaction when they go out and about? And if they encounter something new, can they recover relatively quickly? On the left-hand side of this slide, you see where I have normal, and at the bottom, that is that puppy that's shown is one of the puppies that you saw playing in the previous video. This is one of his first farm experiences as a border collie, and he was carrying his toy, and he's looking at other dogs working sheep and a crowd of people at a dog trial. You'll notice from his body language that he's standing square. His tail is down, which is normal for a border collie, but it's relaxed. It's not tucked up under the abdomen. It doesn't look tense. His ears and his gaze are forward. He's interested in what's going on, and he's happy enough to carry his toy while he's doing all of these things. This is sort of what I would expect normal exploration and interaction environment on a passive level when you are having good socialization experiences and when you're in a reasonable place on the shy-bold spectrum. On the right-hand side, you'll see a picture of what I would consider to be a more at-risk puppy. When we have puppies who are at risk, and you'll see these guys come into the veterinary hospital where you can ask about how they behave at home, these are the ones that they aren't really necessarily that interested in exploring. They're going to stay under the table. They're going to want to stay under the desk. They're going to want to be behind their owner, possibly. These are the puppies that when people go look at them at the breeder or at the shelter, they are the quiet or shy ones. They're the ones that people feel sorry for and they want to make friends with. They often will have a conflicted sort of approach and retreat pattern. And I'm going to show you a video of that on the next, not the next video, but the video after. It's going to be a puppy that does approach, retreat, approach, retreat, approach, retreat. You'll see conflicted behaviors in these puppies where they want to try something and then they try it a little bit and it feels unsafe, so they stop. And they'll try something and it'll feel a little unsafe and they'll stop. Or they'll have incomplete social interactions. Like they might slink up and have a look at you, but if you look at them, then they run away. Or they might come up and look at you, and if you look at them, that's fine, but if you move your hand or dangle a finger, they back up and they look a little bit concerned. When we look at the body language of this particular puppy, He's standing to the side and he's looking at the person. You see that pupils are dilated, the ears are held back, we have a little bit of a furrowed brow, and that tail is down, but it's pretty tense, and that is not a normal tail carriage for that breed. You'll also notice that this puppy is leaning away. If you look at his front feet particularly, this is a good hint for you guys who are sometimes interpreting photos instead of video. Usually feet that are carrying more weight have a bigger surface area contacting the ground. And if you look at that puppy's right front foot, he has quite a lot of surface area touching the ground, and the left front foot has almost none. And that tells you that this dog, even in a still image, is leaning all of his body weight away from whatever it is that he's looking at. So we're going to show you now a little bit later in the lifetime of the puppies. The first video that I'm going to show you is a puppy who I would consider to be a normal puppy that's had a reasonable amount of socialization and has had a number of life experiences at a young age, which were visiting new environments, meeting new people, and has already been exposed to the idea of training. This is a video that is a puppy that belongs to me. She is now 20 months old, and this is her first time going into this specific exam room in the veterinary hospital where I work. Let me just grab the video for you guys. Hang in there. Let me turn the sound down. So this is an example of a puppy. She's never been in this room before. This is her first time being in the room. She is, I believe, 11 or 12 weeks old in this video. And you'll notice that she wanders around and does some exploratory behaviors, and then she wants to come and talk to me about the fact that there should be treats available. She's switching between surfaces really comfortably, so she'll do slippery surface or she'll go onto the mat. This is also her first exposure to that mat. She's never seen that rug or towel before. That's a totally new one. She's seen the idea of rug or towel before, but this is the first time that she's experienced that particular mat and the first time in this room, this environment. This is what I would expect for a puppy that is socially comfortable. I would expect them to be able to go into a new room, look around, experience a few different types of input or types of stimuli, and then can they engage in what's a relatively normal behavior for them. And for her, training is something that she was getting introduced to at that stage of her life. And she's like, oh, show up and get cookies for doing stuff? I know how to do that. This is a new environment, but I still can engage in behaviors that are normal and familiar to me. In contrast, we are going to look now at a puppy that is in its home environment. So it's a familiar environment. There are familiar people present and there are unfamiliar people present. And you're going to see the difference in the puppy's exploratory behaviors. You're going to see the difference in the puppy's social interactions. You're going to see some of the conflict behaviors I was talking about, like approach, retreat, or a lack of commitment to social interaction. And you're going to see some body language that's associated with FAS like you've learned in the Fear-Free modules. And this video is provided by Debbie Martin, so thank you, Debbie, for providing this video. You can tell where the people are because obviously they're in the position of the camera. Look at the puppy's ears are pulled a little bit to the side, and then they come forward, and they come to the side. We have a tail wag that's low. The puppy comes up, and it's doing some play bowing, but immediately then it runs away. Came up, got a whiff of the person, and then walked off. Now we're going to approach again, and notice that the approach is slower this time. The puppy's taking time to smell, get a lot of information. When the puppy leans in, interact, I'm just going to pause that for a second. I'd like to show you that little piece again if I possibly can. Bear with me while I do an experiment. Oh. So what we have here is the puppy stops, leans in, leans out, and then barks. Just a second, you guys. Let me restart this for you because I would like the sound to go away. Bear with me. Sorry, you guys. I just want to see if I can't get this video to show you the way that I want it to show. Yeah, I can't get the sound to go off of that one, unfortunately. So see, this puppy is leaning all of its weight back, and then it leans forward, just barely interacting. This puppy is staying just out of reach. It's right by the owner's feet. This puppy has the option to come closer if it wants to, but it doesn't want to. We're going to lean into somebody who's familiar. The tail's tucked, weight's away.
Absolutely.
And there's lots of
I mean, it's
positive
funny. We've been walking around.
social signaling being done by the people in that video, and they're people who absolutely 100% know how to interact with a fearful dog. And even with that amount of careful social, I would suggest intervention for, and we're going to talk a little bit about intervention later on in the presentation. But what I want you to take away from that video is that that is not a normal social interaction for a puppy. The puppy should look more like the puppy in video number 1. They should be willing to check things out, willing to explore, interested in doing behaviors that are normal and feel secure and safe to them. In the home environment, if we have a puppy that's that young, that's in the socialization period, that puppy was 11 weeks old, and we know that it goes to at least 13 weeks for socialization for puppies, my expectation is that they are in that time where they are mentally most elastic and they are most open to making new friends and meeting new social partners and having new social experiences. If that's his best version of how to be socially elastic, that feels really risky to me because I know that those puppies are going to get less and less socially elastic with age. And if that is as socially elastic as that puppy is going to be, I know that we're in a place where intervention is really necessary because that level of social interaction as an adult dog is probably not going to work for that family. And certainly it's going to be frightening for the dog. So what do I need to tell clients? What do clients need to know? What do clients need to know about puppy socialization? Veterinary professionals, you guys know body language in and out. You learn it passively through experience. You have many different types of animals that are presented to you on a daily basis with whom you interact, and you are body language experts. Pet owners are not body language experts. If you look at the picture on the left and you see that puppy that's sitting on a scale looking at treats hanging out at the vet, and you look at the picture on the right, and that's a puppy that is, you can see it's taken all the way to the end of its leash so that it can get under a chair, and it's looking at the person. It has a little head tilt. Probably the person made a little noise to get the puppy to head tilt for the picture. Your clients think that those pictures are the same. Your clients think that those puppies are the same, and that is not the case. The puppy on the left is socially way more comfortable in this particular environment, and the puppy on the right is less socially comfortable with what's going on. Left is interactive, it's engaged, it's out in free space, it's not hiding. The puppy on the right is hiding in plain sight. We're under a chair. It's not a solid chair, so it's, maybe not the best shelter that you could choose, but it's shelter nonetheless. The puppy's feet are all tucked in underneath it. The tail is tucked tight, and the body is all the way as far against the wall, kind of as it can be, and still be facing the person. So clients need to know body language, and they need to know the difference between those two pictures. They need to understand that a puppy who hides under the chair every time they go into a new environment is an at-risk puppy, and we should be talking about what to do for that puppy to help them be more help them feel more confident and feel more safe and supported in new experiences. They also need to know about warning signs. Clients should expect a certain amount of normal. For instance, puppy biting during play is totally normal. A puppy that's 12 or 13 weeks old, and when you try to pet it, it shows its teeth and bites you, that is not normal. Clients do not know that. Many clients do not realize that those two are not the same thing. And the reverse is also true. You'll sometimes have clients come to you and say, oh man, my puppy is super aggressive. He bites all the time, but they have misidentified normal puppy play. So they need to know what body language looks like, and they need to know warning signs. They need to know that socialization is all about making positive emotional connections, and they need to know how to choose a puppy class. And I'm going to talk a little bit about puppy class here in a minute. They need to know what products might be helpful to them, and they need to know when to ask for help. These are all conversations that I like to have with my puppy owners while I'm doing things like taking their history and taking their TPR and petting the puppy and doing my physical exam. That's the conversation that I'm having with the client while I'm interacting with the animal. Clients need to know that when they're doing socialization exercises with their puppy, when they're going to new places, new people, new social partners, new environments, they need to stay under a threshold. If they see their puppy leaning backwards or moving away, it's time to stop. If they see their puppy showing signs of avoidance, they need to stop. If they see their puppy behind their ankles, they need to stop. We need to teach clients that they should stay under threshold. And oftentimes the best way to do this is to use the example of going to the veterinary hospital. Oftentimes you will see even puppies who are pretty darn normal, they will have a little bit of hesitation now and then when they are at the veterinary hospital. And if you see that hesitation, that's a great time to point out to the client what it looks like and that they need to be on alert for that level of hesitation or change when they are at home. They need to understand that it should be nice, fun, and safe. And it's not just about exposure, you guys. It's about positive exposure. It's a balancing act between, can I expose you to something new that's near your threshold? And can I make you think that it's amazing and wonderful? And can I prompt that pleasurable emotional response when you're having that experience so that it becomes part of your happy experiences repertoire? Socialization is all about building a box that's full of happy experiences so that when you see those things again in the future, when you're a little bit older, you can flip back to that page and say, oh, I love when this happens, and you get that nice comfort level. Permanent fears can happen if we go over threshold with these little puppies, especially when they're young. We can really create a situation where they have permanent concerns about certain kinds of input. So really emphasize to your clients that they need to stay under threshold, and if they see things that are worrisome to them, they should call you. When we're doing client education, I say every puppy every time. And it's like I just said, every interaction is an example. If I go to give a puppy a treat and they lean away, that's a conversation point for me with the owner. And I'll toss the treat and see if the puppy will follow it. And I talk to the owner about, hey, you see when I offered that treat, he leaned away from me a little bit. Let me try this in a different way. And let me give you a little bit of homework about how to encourage your puppy to feel more safe and confident when new people offer food. I also think that it's important for us to take a behavior history for every patient every time, but especially for puppies and kittens, we should be asking the owner, hey, how is he enjoying his new social experiences? Any new playmates that he's enjoyed? Anything that you found around the house that he finds concerning? If any of those things happen, please let us know. And it's important that we recommend a good puppy class for puppies. When I say good puppy class, I am being pretty darn specific about what a good puppy class looks like. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. For client education for body language, it's not just about examples, and you can have an FAS scale in every exam room, and that is very helpful. I would also encourage you to have all your clients sign up for Fear-Free Happy Homes because there are so many helpful handouts and presentations, even very short ones on Fear-Free Happy Homes that can help your clients have positive social experiences for their young puppies and to recognize how to create those social experiences. I have one example here for you. These are two puppies of the same breed. The puppy on the left is a puppy that looks pretty darn worried to me. We have eyebrows furrowed, a little wrinkle in the forehead, ears are back. This puppy looks concerned. On the right-hand side, we have weight shifted forward, engaged with what they are looking at. Ears are up and forward. We don't have the furrowed eyes. This is a good example for clients of what a worried puppy versus a not worried puppy looks like. And if they see that their puppy is worried, there's time to intervene. When I have clients make the plan for socializing their puppies, I suggest that they have a family meeting and make a little socialization checklist. What are the things that this puppy needs to do? What is their lifestyle preparedness plan? What kind of people does the puppy need to meet? Different ages, heights, gender, appearance, beards, hats, coats, glasses, different races, all of these things. What is going to be in this puppy's life and what would you like your puppy to enjoy? What kind of animals will they be encountering? What kind of places will they be going? I travel quite a bit with my dogs. It's important to me that they can go in the car, that they can go to hotels, that they can go to friends' houses and feel comfortable. And of course, don't forget about the vet, all of our pet thing. What kind of equipment are they going to be exposed to? What if we have to vacuum the carpet? Are they going to have to go on an airplane on a regular basis? I have many clients who travel back and forth to vacation properties, and it's important that their dogs be able to travel on the airplane. And of course, they're going to need to be able to spend some alone time as well. Nobody can be with their puppy 24 hours a day, and it's important that during that critical period of socialization, we also teach puppies that they can be comfortable on their own. When we're talking about choosing a puppy class, we want to make sure that the puppy class is set up to be positive socialization for puppies and that the emphasis is on capturing that critical socialization period versus things like obedience training. Puppies should be allowed to play with puppies who have a similar style of play to them, and we should be supervised. If we have puppies who feel overwhelmed, we need to make sure that we separate them out and not further overwhelm them. Any training that's done should use positive reinforcement methods, and there should be some amount of body language education present. It is crucial that you or someone that you trust go and observe a puppy class before you recommend it. You would be astounded things that happen in puppy class. Not all puppy classes are created equal. And it's really important that if you are endorsing and recommending a puppy class to your clients, that you take the time to investigate and make sure that that puppy class is appropriate. Make sure that you also consider the idea that you might be able to offer puppy classes. And there is a wonderful course for people who are considering offering puppy classes called Puppy Start Right for Instructors. And Debbie Martin, who was nice enough to provide the Fearful Puppy video earlier, also has a special discount code that's available for people who are interested in taking the Puppy Start Right for Instructors class, in case you've been thinking about adding puppy socialization classes and puppy training classes to your hospital. This slide shows you a special discount code that you can get $100 off taking Puppy Start Right for Instructors. Even if you're not considering starting your own puppy class right now, I think Puppy Start Right is a great place for you to learn more about what that can look like and how helpful it can be for both puppies and owners, and it helps you make a plan for the future should you decide to offer classes at that time. Oftentimes I will have clients or breeders say to me, I understand that you want me to take my puppy and have all these positive social experiences with them, but what about diseases? It's important that we remember that fear is more deadly than most diseases. If we're talking about young dogs aged 0 to 3 years of age, behavior disorders are far more harmful to them than things like rabies. Contagious disease is something that it exists, it's out there, but fortunately, due to widespread vaccination protocols over the last 30 to 40 years, it's way less prevalent than it used to be. But I see a lot of fearful dogs that were under-socialized and or had the wrong and proper kind of socialization done during their critical developmental stages. And those guys, they are at a serious risk. We need to recognize that behavior disorders are a much higher risk than contagious diseases for most young dogs, but we also want to take proper precautions. The AVSAB position statement on puppy socialization is a great thing that you can be sending home with your puppy owners. We send it home in every one of our puppy packet booklets that we give to our new puppy owners, and it explains about the importance of positive social experiences and choosing safe environments and safe experiences to mitigate the risk of disease. When you are recommending puppy classes, I generally suggest that those puppies should have at least one set of vaccines and they need to be verified parasite-free before they show up. And that is one way that you can mitigate those risks. With respect to client education, we can talk a little bit about products as well. These adorable pictures of puppies nursing are presented so that you can see adorable pictures, but also so that you can remember that pheromones can play an important role in how puppies experience the environment, and it can help have a calming effect for them if they are exposed to pheromones. The pheromones that I'm talking about are Adaptil and Adaptil Jr., and those simulate the mammary pheromones that are present in dogs. So these puppies look pretty happy to me. Everybody likes to belly up to the milk bar, and we can help replicate that experience for them by using synthetic pheromones, especially during their transition time into their new home. Adaptil comes in a variety of different forms. You guys are probably familiar with it. Many of you are probably already using it in your hospital. In our hospital, we have diffusers that we plug in each exam room. We also have bandanas available where we can apply the Adaptil to the bandana and it can follow the dog through the hospital. But these clients can also be using this at home to great effect. And Siva has come out with a new product. It's called Adaptil Jr. It's a nice soft collar that does a pheromone release for these puppies, and it lasts. And I'm going to show you their video about Adaptil Jr. now.
This is Betty. She's 9 weeks old. The whole family fell in love with her instantly at the breeders. We wanted to make sure we gave her the best start in life, so we started using Adaptil Jr. from day one. She's totally happy wearing the collar and has settled into our home really well. She's also getting more confident in her training, and I can just tell that she's going to be a gorgeous dog. She's doing amazing.
Try Adaptil Jr. to give your puppy the best start in life. Adaptil brings you closer.
So those are examples of products that you can use in the hospital and products that clients can be using in their home that will help to provide calm, warm feelings for those puppies during that critical transitional time. There's also things that I like to call passive socialization assistance tools. And this sounds kind of funny, but if you bring things that are familiar to a puppy to a new environment, especially things that they associate with positive emotions, I think that it can really assist them in forming positive opinions about new experiences. The examples that I show here, the upper right-hand picture is called a snuffle mat. It is a fleece mat that's made of lots of tiny little fingers, and I can smush some kibbles in there or some little treats, and they get to have a little sniffing fest where they then find and eat those tiny pieces of food. Once my puppy knows how to do the snuffle mat, I'll often take it with me, and when I go to a new environment where I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, I'll provide them with that fun activity to do in the new place to help encourage them to have positive feelings about that new experience. There's another example. There is a dog that's playing with a Kong toy. Oftentimes I will bring a Kong with me that's stuffed and provide that to my puppy in a new environment. It's important to realize that I am not doing this because I think my puppy is fearful and I'm trying to reverse the fear. I'm doing these as protective mechanisms. I'm taking my puppy to an environment where I think everything is going to be fine and safe, but I want to make sure that they're having a pleasurable experience rather than trying to reverse fear. That is not an intervention strategy, it's a prevention strategy. We can also look at acoustic therapy as far as products. There are many of them that are available. I have just a few examples here. I don't particularly endorse any of these examples necessarily over the other, but I want you to be aware that music can have an impact, a physiologic impact on animals, and there are sets of music out there that are available that are calming and relaxing, and you can play those in the car, you can play them in your exam rooms, clients can play them during times when they want the puppy to be restful. There's also a set of them that incorporates other sounds, things like fireworks or things like automobile sounds, children playing sounds, dog show sounds, and those sounds are woven in with the music that has been clinically proven to slow heart rate, decrease blood pressure, and induce a state of calm in dogs. That's another way that you can do passive socialization without getting out into the environment necessarily, but they still get that important sensory input in a way that's pleasurable and nice for them. But it's not all about going out and about. It is also important for puppies to learn during their socialization period that it's okay to be alone and it's a necessary life skill. I suggest to puppy owners that they do safe separations, for instance, while they're going to take a shower or while they're going to get the mail, just for a few minutes at a time at first, and that should be quiet, alone time. It's helpful if those clients can monitor the puppies for any signs of fear or panic when they're left alone. And any puppies that are fearful or panicked when they are this, that is a sign that we need to do an interventional therapy for those puppies. Those puppies need to be referred for veterinary treatment because puppies who are very fearful of being alone at a super young age are at an extremely high risk of developing separation distress as an adult dog. And we all know that separation distress is a legitimately life-threatening concern in adult dogs, especially because they can self-harm when they're trying to escape from confinement. They can self-harm when they're alone, but also there's often a significant amount of property damage, which can really be harmful to the human-animal bond. So what if you need to intervene? We've been talking about prevention, things that you can tell your clients to do, what and when your clients should be doing things, how they should recognize body language, how they should be making a family plan. But what if they try those things and it's not going as we hope it would? What if we have shy or timid puppies that are under the dresser at home? What if we have puppies that look like the puppy that we showed in the video earlier that's doing approach, retreat, approach, retreat, approach, retreat at home or in the exam room? What comes next? It's important that you have a referral strategy for those. If you're not necessarily comfortable treating behavior cases, I would strongly encourage you to make sure that you reach out to the other professionals in your area. If you have a DVM, DACVB, veterinary behaviorist available, that is very helpful. If there are practices near you who treat behavior and accept behavior referrals, be aware of those. Make sure you have an existing referral relationship, because if it's a puppy, it is really important that we get on it right away. Puppies will not outgrow things like being very shy or timid. Puppies will not outgrow things like being fearful of strangers. Oftentimes clients believe that puppies will simply outgrow this, and that is not the case. Generally, these things will worsen with time rather than getting better on their own. So if you have a client come to you or you notice in the exam room some signs that you think that this is a potentially at-risk or fearful puppy, please make sure that you're familiar. If your hospital doesn't treat behavior, you're familiar with what your referral options are locally so that we can get immediate help for that puppy. If your client calls and tries to get an appointment and they are told that it's going to be 3 or 4 or 6 weeks, I would encourage you to also call the referral professional and request an expedited appointment, because that puppy's socialization window is going to close, and this puppy is in a very sensitive period of development. The earlier we can intervene with puppies, the better the potential outcome can be. So just to review, we covered a lot of territory today. We talked about socialization and the fact that it's adaptive. It helps us have a healthy life where we are interested in the right kinds of people and experiences, and we're maybe fearful of things that actually should be scary so that we can stay alive. But it is a short period in puppies, 3 to 12, or perhaps as late as 16 or 20 weeks, depending on the literature. Puppies develop really rapidly. They change a lot from week to week. Their development period is compressed down into a short period of time, and it's important that we intervene if necessary for fearful puppies during that limited window, and that we support puppies that are normal to help them have many positive, pleasant social experiences during that critical window of socialization to better prepare them for their lifestyle. We need to remember that those experiences that they have during that critical period leave lasting impressions. And so we want to educate clients every pet, every time. Ask for a history, check and see how socialization is going. Make sure that we're recommending a really good puppy class and that we're providing those clients with good client education materials. They should have the AVSAB puppy socialization statement. They should have access to Fear-Free Happy Homes, which is fearfreehappyhomes.com. For any of you who are on the webinar who are not Fear-Free Happy Homes members, I would strongly encourage you to sign up for a free account as well so that you have some idea of what is there and what's available to your clients. It's an amazing resource, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You might not have to make your own handouts for this kind of stuff. It might already be there to be available for your use. We want to make sure that we have pheromones available in the hospital whenever possible, and that we make sure clients are aware of the positive potential impact that pheromone therapy can have. Adaptil Jr. is that new super soft puppy collar that they came out with that lasts for 4 weeks, and that just happens to be about the duration of the socialization window after puppies go home into their new environment. So it's kind of a great fit. Acoustic therapy and passive devices like a snuffle mat, Kong, or other fun playtime can be really useful. And we would do this because we want to keep pets and people together. We want to have puppies turn into dogs that have the best quality of life possible and that can stay in their homes forever. Plus, who doesn't love playing with puppies and kittens all day? And the photo on the right is my puppy, Kestrel, and that was her first visit to that particular place. We were taking her for some pictures, and you can see I brought her favorite toy with her, and I think to good effect. So at this point, I think that we have just a little bit of time for questions if we would like to take them. Christy, I don't know if you are ready for that.
I am definitely ready. I have a lot of questions, actually more than we're going to possibly be able to get to, but let's just jump in. Can puppies start bold, then become shy, even if socialized correctly?
Absolutely. And it can be a product of experience or it can be a product of genetics. We all go through developmental periods in our lives. People do, just like pets. We all know humans who were really outgoing when they were 8, and when they were 13-year-olds and going through adolescence, they became shy. So certainly that can change with time, but I don't think you're ever going to a tiger can't change its stripes. So if you have a puppy who's fundamentally bold, you often can return to that fundamental boldness.
A lot of questions from people, wanting to know how to integrate behavior topics into puppy exams and how to interact with pet owners during puppy exams. It was quite a few questions, and one of them is how much time should be dedicated within the puppy exam to discuss puppy behavior topics and socialization. And there was sort of a follow-up question to that from someone else that was, if you have an at-risk puppy in your exam room, do you go ahead and do the exam and give vaccines, or tell the pet parent to socialize more and then come back, or what exactly would you do?
So that's a two-part question. The first part of the question was how much time is devoted to non-medical topics during appointments. And I will tell you that it depends a little bit on how much time you allow in general and what your practice structure is. I can tell you what we do is all of our new client, new puppy or new kitten appointments, we allow 60 minutes for that appointment. And we anticipate that about 15 minutes of that is doctor time. And the rest of the to do like the physical exam and talk about the basics. And the rest of it is puppy setup for success time with a technician. So the rest of that time is taking the history, giving them, going through their puppy packet with them, explaining about medical prevention, explaining about social prevention, explaining about behavioral protections for them. And so with us, their very first visit, it's like 75% of the time is not doctor time and 25% is doctor time. With puppies in our practice, we're seeing them generally every 2 weeks, all the way up until they're 20 weeks old. And those 2-week appointments, we allow 15 to 30 minutes for those appointments. And we spend as much or as little time as the client would like to spend talking about these topics. We have a checklist in our practice that we go through. About 50% of the topics on the checklist are social or behavioral, and about 50% of them are medical. And by the time they are 20 weeks old, we make sure we've gone through that entire checklist, split up between a number of visits. And then the second part of your question was, at-risk puppies, what do you tell them to do and do you stop the appointment? Is that right?
Yeah, do you go ahead and do
Okay.
the exam and get the vaccines, or do you tell them to socialize more, then come back? What do you do?
That depends a little bit, again, on your practice. In our practice, if we have a super fearful puppy that comes in at 8 weeks old that is hiding under a chair and we can't touch it, we send the owners home with PVPs, and then we try again to get their first exam done once they've had some PVPs on board. And then we would also, we accept behavior referrals, so we're maybe not a fair practice, but that is a puppy that I would immediately suggest that you refer to a DVM behaviorist if you have one in your area, or if you don't have one in your area, a number of DVM behaviorists do vet-to-vet consults where you can Skype with them or get on the phone with, like your doctor can Skype with them or get on the phone with them to get advice about what to do. But for me, if I'm presented with an 8-week-old puppy that I can't touch in the exam room, that is a behavioral emergency. That is a young dog that we are in a crucial period where we might be able to make things better, and we can definitely make them worse if we don't intervene. So like, I kind of don't care about the vaccine and deworming on that day. What I care about is, can I get my vaccine and deworming in relatively soon using PVPs, and can I get you an intervention plan to prevent this from getting worse?
You mentioned an intervention plan, and there's tremendous amount of interest that people have expressed in various types of resources, such as, do you have a checklist or some kind of protocol to use in the hospital for assessing at-risk versus normal pups? Is there anything on the Fear Free website that they can print off? Do you have or know of anything, Monique?
Well, I have a lot of those things. I will admit that I cannot specifically of that exact resource in the Fear Free toolbox off the top of my head. There are things that are related to that, but I do not have, that is not coming to me right away. The stuff that's on Fear Free Happy Homes that is about bringing your puppy 101 and that type of stuff is actually really helpful and has quite a bit of that information that's client directed. And the AVSAP position statements about dominance and puppy socialization and choosing a trainer are really helpful client-facing tools as well. If you guys are really desperate, I can send you my personal clinic's puppy and kitten checklists about what we talk about and what our red flags are, if that makes sense.
How could they get in touch with you if they were interested in that, Monique?
You can feel free to email me. My email is on the slide that's visible right now, which is monique@teachinganimals.com, and I can email that to you. Please know that I am not in the office on the weekend, so the earliest you would get that from me is next week.
And following up with just another, someone asked about the coupon code. Could you say that again?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Oh, for the coupon code? Yeah.
For Puppy Start Right? Let me go back to that slide. There you go.
Great, thank you. So we still have a ton of questions. So let me dive back in.
Okay.
Is it possible to? You kind of answered this, but not in these exact terms. Is it possible to over socialize at a young age?
Absolutely. I think that it is possible to over anything at a young age. Puppies have a short attention span. They have a small amount of fuel in the tank for any given task at any given time. They end up having longer attention spans and more fuel in the tank as they age. But I like to get the sort of most bang for my buck. I want to do one or two things a day with a puppy that are intentional. And the rest of the time, I try to set up passive socialization, like the 3 and 4 week old videos that I showed you. That's a time that those puppies would normally be awake, and I was just arranging the environment so that when they were awake, they were having positive socialization experiences rather than I'm going to wake up the puppies so that they can go have socialization time now. It should work within a puppy's schedule, and we want to make sure that we can do a little bit every day, but this should not be a compulsive exercise where it's I'm going to spend 30 minutes 3 times a day doing stuff to the puppy. Please don't do that.
Monique, can you go back to the slide with your contact info on it? People are asking. And I'm
there you go.
Here, I'm actually going to go ahead and answer. Mimi asked, I think it says Mimi, I could be wrong about that. It's very tiny and very pale. Asked about assets on or resources on the Fear Free Happy Homes website, such as handouts. Fear Free Happy Homes is completely pet owner facing. It is not a resource for veterinarians, it's a resource for your clients. So essentially we don't have things like, there are a few handouts, infographics that people can print out, but they're not intended to be about the veterinary experience. Those would be, if you are a Fear Free certified professional, those are in the toolbox. So there are a lot of handouts, a lot of resources, more being added all the time. There may not be precisely what Monique is talking about here, but you can reach out to her for what she is willing to share. What there is on the Fear Free Happy Homes website, there are courses that pet owners can take. They're very short, they're very entertaining, they're animated, and they'll teach them a lot of information about socialization, about separation anxiety, about raising a puppy or a newly acquired dog or a long acquired dog or cat to be more confident, secure, enriched, happy. But there aren't client handouts for veterinarians to use. Like that would be on the Fear Free Pets website in the toolbox for certified professionals. So just wanted to clarify that, because we had a lot of questions about what resources are on Fear Free Happy Homes and versus resources for Fear Free certified professionals. And so yeah,
can
go
I
ahead,
add to that
please,
just
Monique.
for 2 seconds? Sorry.
Yes.
I will tell you that with respect to Fear Free Happy Homes, we use that in our hospital a lot, and we actually will take links from Fear Free Happy Homes and email them to the client and be like, please make sure to get your Fear Free Happy Homes membership to get this information and more information like this.
Great.
Sorry.
No, that's wonderful. And you know, we want to have resources that are useful to people. Sorry, I was just answering a question about when this will be available. So this presentation will be available at fearfreepets.com/webinars within a few days, a week or so. We will have it available. And if you follow us on social media or get our newsletter, it will be linked in there as well. So you should have plenty of opportunities to see it. And a couple of other questions. One of the ones I think that we should ask, and actually I think we're going to say this will be the last question, is how do you know when a puppy needs greater intervention or a veterinary behaviorist? You already mentioned a red flag, a puppy you can't even touch, but what other perhaps less severe red flags would you say suggest that that's a puppy who needs more help than?
I will say that in the general practice where you don't see behavior, so like I can't answer this question for my practice because we accept referrals for behavior, right? In the general practice where you don't see behavior, if you see a puppy who shows reluctance to interact with you, to me that's a red flag. Puppies who are ages 3 to 12 weeks, 3 to 13 weeks should be open to the idea of interacting with strangers. And if they come into the hospital and they are under the chair for 2 minutes before they can come out, or you offer them a treat and they're doing the lean back as far as you can and they reach out and snake bite the treat out of your hand, that's not normal. And if you don't have somebody on your team with the tools that feels comfortable making an intervention plan for that, and I mean, making interventions plans for this way beyond the scope of a 50-minute basic webinar about the intro to puppy socialization. We could do a week-long meeting on that topic. But if you are not comfortable treating that in-house, you should refer it. You should be able to touch and interact with baby puppies. They should be willing to do that for you. And if they are not, my feeling is that some level of intervention is appropriate.
Great. Thank you so much, Monique. This was fantastic, and you're getting a lot of great feedback in the chat as well. That's all we have time for. Yeah, that's all we have time for. And all of us at Fear Free want to thank again Siva for sponsoring this amazing presentation. And we also want to thank you for sharing your time with us today. We know you have a lot going on and it's Friday, but we hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we hope to see you again soon at one of our webinars. You can visit fearfreepets.com/webinars to see the archived versions of past webinars, as well as our schedule of upcoming presentations. Thanks so much for being with us, everybody.
Thank you.